Hello everyone. This lecture series is brought to you as a courtesy of Raj Malhotra IAS Institute, Chandigarh. In today's lecture, I, Ayush Gupta, will be discussing with you the different shapes of recovery curves. So, recovery curves become important when the economy has undergone a recession. Recovery curves signify to us as to the trajectory the economy is rebounding in. So, as you know, by means of this very show, I cover for you on a daily basis the Indian Express's explained section, the Rajya Sabha debates of the big picture, and the Science Monitor by Rajya Sabha TV. So, the topic of our today's discussion is provided to us, the context is provided to us by Indian Express's today's explained section. The article is named as Shape of Economic Recovery. So, as I've discussed with you in my previous lectures, that the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has recently released the Q1 data of GDP and gross value added with respect to the current financial year, that is 2021-2022. On the basis of this very data, the government, while doing an year-on-year comparison, is claiming that the economy has had a V-shaped recovery. So, what the government has done, basically Q1 of 2021-2022, as per the government, when it compares it with the previous Q1 of 2020-2021, there has been an increase of 20% in the GDP, whereas in this very quarter there was a decrease of about 24% vis-a-vis the previous quarter to this one. So, the government says that the economy has actually had a rebound and there was a sharp decline in the economy, which was followed by a quick rise in the economy, gaining the same momentum that it had earlier on. Whereas, when it comes to the critics have done basically a quarter-on-quarter comparison. So, quarter-on-quarter comparison में क्या होता है? Basically, the growth in GDP in this quarter, in Q1, is compared with the growth of GDP in the previous quarter. So, basically Q1 2021-2022 के अंदर जो GDP है, जब उसे हम कंपेयर करते हैं Q4 of GDP of the financial year 2020-2021, then there has been a decrease of 17% in the GDP, which is why the critics are saying that the economy is losing its momentum. Now, as to whose claim is right and whose claim is wrong, we will be understanding in the coming slides. So, basically, if we are to say this thing, appreciate both of the claims, then both the government and critics are factually correct but theoretically giving misleading information. And what is the chief reason why I am saying that they are basically giving theoretically misleading information? The reason is that the usage of percentage to assess economy in cases when the economy has undergone a crisis will naturally give you deceptive and misleading results. Why do I say this very thing? So, as per the article, we picked up the example from the article itself. Suppose there is 25% reduction in the GDP. Let's say the GDP is rupees 100. So, 25% reduction होएगा तो GDP आ जाएगा rupees 75. Let's say there is increase of 25% in the GDP. Now, in 25% increase in rupees 75 will be 93.75. So, despite of the fall and rise percentage being same, that is 25%, there is a difference of about what? 6 rupees 25 paisa between both these terms. It is this for this very reason that at times of crisis, when we use percentages, they become deceptive. Therefore, we need to use the absolute value. Now, before analyzing both the claims in detail and their fallouts, let us see the different types of recovery curves. So, the first and the best recovery that any economy can hope for is a Z-shaped recovery. So, Z-shaped recovery में क्या होता है? So, in this very recovery, first of all, the crisis period is short-lived. So, first there is a fall, sharp decline in the economy. Then, the economy rebounds at a larger speed, at a larger trend than it was growing earlier on. So supposedly कि अगर ईयर ऑन ईयर इकोनॉमी में ग्रोथ हो रही थी 6% की, 6% ग्रोथ से जीडीपी बढ़ रहा था. देन देयर वाज अ शार्प डिक्लाइन इन द जीडीपी ऑफ -25%. So what will happen is that when the economy quickly rebounds, this is going to rebound at a rate which is higher than 6%. So let's say that -25% तो इसने इसको कवर किया, then it covers up to +12%, and then later on it comes to the normal trend line. ऐसा होता क्यों है? So in this very scenario what happens is people's income are not affected a lot, whereas their spending is affected. So let's take for an example, supposedly the government imposes a lockdown of about 20 days. Now 20 days में क्या होगा? People will not be able to spend money. Although no one is going to get out of the job, because what is going to happen? People are not going to really fire you when they know, when they have the certainty that after 20 days I am going to need this individual again. So in that very scenario, there is chances of people's income going down would be less, whereas people would be constrained on spending front. So for example, इस एरिया में जो कि ये 20 डेज का लॉकडाउन लगा, सपोजली इस टाइम पे 100 मैरिजेस होनी थी एंड ये मैरिजेस रुक गई, एंड इस टाइम के अंदर भी 100 मैरिजेस होनी है आने वाले टाइम में जैसे ही वो खुल जाएगा. सो व्हाट विल हैपन इज एज सून एज दिस लॉकडाउन ओपन्स अप, these 100 marriages will also take place along with these 100 marriages. So basically expense in this time frame, this small time frame is going to double up, and after people have spent this money, then they will come back to the normal growth trajectory. So this is with respect to Z-shaped recovery. I hope this is clear. Then the second is V-shaped recovery. Now V-shaped recovery में क्या होता है? V-shaped recovery में there is first a sharp decline followed by a quick rebound of the economy in such a manner that it comes in tune with the trend line. Now trend line, I'm at the cost of repetition, I'm explaining it again. Trend line क्या होती है? Again, आपकी इकोनॉमी 6% के रेट से ग्रो कर रही थी, शार्प डिक्लाइन हुआ, माइनस में गई. देन व्हेन दिस इकोनॉमी पिक्स अप अगेन, दिस इज गोइंग टू कम इन दिस वेरी ट्रेंड इटसेल्फ, इट इज गोइंग टू जॉइन दिस ट्रेंड, एंड ये जो यहाँ पे ग्रोथ होनी थी, इट इज गोइंग टू कवर इट अप बाय क्विकली गेनिंग स्पीड इन दिस रिकवरी, विच इज द रीजन कि हमारे यहाँ पे कोई भी जीडीपी लॉस नहीं होगा अल्टीमेट सिनेरियो के अंदर. सो ओनली अ शॉर्ट पीरियड ऑफ डिक्लाइन फॉलोड बाय द सेम पेस ऑफ रिकवरी. देन वी हैव द यू शेप रिकवरी. अब यू शेप रिकवरी में क्या होगा? दैट देयर इज गोइंग टू बी अ पीरियड ऑफ स्लो ग्रोथ, एंड विच इज वाई इट इज गोइंग टू टेक टाइम फॉर द इकोनॉमी to join the same trend line that it was earlier following, the same trend of growth that it was earlier following up. So naturally, in this very scenario, definitely people are going to lose their jobs and they will fall upon their savings. And अगर ये time frame ज़्यादा elongate हो गया, then this would be called as elongated U shape. Then we have the W shape economic recovery. In W-shaped economic recovery, there will be instances in rebound and growth followed by again sharp decline and then again growth. So this might happen if we take an example in scenarios in which there are different layers of COVID coming up. So, in case of there are different waves of COVID coming up, what will happen? So, first there is a lockdown, economy goes down, sharp decline. Lockdown lifts up, economy starts rising. Then second wave of COVID hits, again lockdown happens, economy down, then again. So this is basically the most erratic form of recovery and most problematic from policy point of aspect as well, as the government over here is left as clueless as to what sort of an intervention should it do, because you are not able to assess as to in which manner the economy is reacting and what is the strength of the economy. It cannot be gauged from that very aspect. Now coming to L-shaped recovery. Now L-shaped recovery में क्या होता है? There is a decline in the economy, sudden decline, then the economy does pick up, but it takes a very long time, probably in years, to match the same trend line at which it was growing before. So there is a permanent loss of GDP and GVA in this very scenario. For example, the economy was growing at a rate of 6% per annum. It declines minus 25%. It raises to plus 20%. However, it is not able to achieve the same level of growth which it would have reached had it been growing at the same pace of growth. So although the economy recovers and it comes into positive sign, it comes into green level, green shoots, however, the growth that was supposed to be happen in those very years, in that time frame in which there was recession, that is completely lost. Besides this, the another curve which was very much popular was the K-shaped recovery. In K-shaped recovery, we should see K-shaped recovery rather as a subset of whatever recovery that we are facing. So even if you are having a V-shaped recovery, the economy has a V-shaped recovery, there is a possibility that that recovery is also having a K-shaped aspect. What happens in a K-shaped aspect? In K-shaped scenario, the economy splits up. Basically, there is one segment of the economy that is growing, whereas the other segment of the economy is not growing at that very pace. In this very scenario, the fault lines and the economic divide in the society gets widened up. Those who are well off, they start recovering quickly, whereas those who were not well off, they do not recover quickly. Whereas as a whole, the economy is recovering. So this is with respect to the different shapes of recovery curve. Now let's come to the government's claim with respect to the V-shaped recovery. So government says that when we compare Q1 data of the current financial year 2021-2022 Q1 data, there is an increase of 20% with respect to the corresponding Q1 of the previous financial year, which is 2022-2021, and therefore there has been a V-shaped recovery. But now, as I've already told you, that now we need to look at the absolute values, and only then can we analyze has there been a V-shaped recovery or not. So let us see what does the absolute value tells us. So supposedly the GDP was in 2017-2018 about 31 lakh something crore rupees, and the economy was growing at about 6% growth rate every year. Over here in 2019-20, the COVID strikes and there is a sharp decline in the economy, and in 2020-2021 the economy is at here, that is about 32, the economy is at this level. Now the economy starts rebounding. And today, the economy in quarter 1 of 2021-2022, the GDP is 32 lakh 38,000 something crore rupees. However, had the economy grown at the very same pace, then what would have been the GDP at this point in time? So, if we calculate this thing and we cover up the growth in the intermediate years, that is the financial year 2019-2020 and financial year 2020-2021, दोनों में 6% की ग्रोथ होएगी. So, in quarter 1 of financial year 2021-2022, the GDP should have been 40 lakhs 7,000 something crore rupees. Whereas, what is the GDP that we are having? We are having about 32 lakh 38,000 something crore rupees. So, this is somewhat at the level of the GDP that we had during 17-18. So 17-18 के आसपास जो 17-18 के क्वार्टर 1 में हमारा GDP था, वो आज हमारे क्वार्टर 1 2021-2022 के GDP के आसपास है. अगर वी शेप रिकवरी हुई होती तो ये जो हमारा लॉस था ग्रोथ का, ये भी कवर कर लिया होता इकोनॉमी ने, एंड आवर इकोनॉमी शुड हैव बीन एट समवट 40 lakh 7,000 something crore rupees. So, in this very manner, what the trajectory shows is that we are having largely more of an L-shaped growth. Why do I say this? Supposedly, if from now on our economy grows at a rate of 7% year on year, leave it that we were earlier growing at 6%, we'll say now we are growing at a larger pace, and 7% is also a very ambitious target in the present economic scenario. Then if we are to calculate, the calculation comes out that in the first quarter at the growth rate of 7% year on year growth rate hai, first quarter of 2023-2024, that is 2 years from now, 7% growth के साथ आज के GDP के ऊपर we would have reached a GDP of 39 lakh something crore rupees, which is still less than what should have been the GDP had we had a V-shaped recovery, which is 40.07 something crore rupees, lakh crore rupees. So, in this very scenario, we are more of having an L-shaped recovery and not a V-shaped recovery, which means that the economy is going to sustain a permanent loss with respect to GDP and gross value added, and it is going to take time for the economy to reach at the earlier levels of growth, probably in absence of huge large scale government intervention. This is going to take some number of years. Now, coming to the claim of the critics. Now, critics says that there has been a decline, quarter on quarter decline in the economy. So, what are they saying and why are they wrong? So, as I told you earlier also, that critics are saying that if we compare the data of quarter 1 of 2021-2022 financial year with quarter 4, which is the preceding quarter of financial year 2020, just a second, of financial year 2020-2021, then there has been a 17% decline, and therefore the economy is losing its momentum. Now, why it is not correct? Although internationally quarter on quarter comparison is the accepted norm, however, when it comes to India, what we see is that when our financial year begins, there is a steady rise in the GDP in subsequent quarters, and this continues till the last quarter. A reason to this can also be attributed to the different financial spending patterns in India. So naturally, towards the last quarters, we are having festive seasons, people are spending more, and towards the beginning of financial year, people are constrained in their budgets, they're preparing for new investments, and therefore all the budgets are prepared in the first quarter of the year. So what happens is that we see a steady rise in GDP with the increasing quarters, and therefore it is common for us to have less expenditure in the first quarter of the new financial year vis-a-vis what was our expenditure in the preceding quarter of the last financial year. If we are to take any other example with this aspect also, अगर हम quarter to quarter का example भी लेंगे, so इसमें हमें ये पता चलता है that just after the lockdown in 2019-2020 फर्स्ट क्वार्टर के अंदर लॉकडाउन लगा, सेकेंड क्वार्टर में जैसे ही थोड़ा बहुत खुला, देयर वाज अ शार्प राइज इन द इकोनॉमी, शार्प रीबाउंड. So does that mean that the economy has gained the full scale? No, that we had seen earlier on. From our present experience, we can pretty much say that no, the economy had not recovered, and therefore quarter on quarter comparison is not well found when it comes to India. Now, lastly, why does these growth trajectories, as to what sort of growth trajectory are we having, matter? Because whatsoever curve of recovery there is, recovery is going to happen at its own pace. However, it is important from policy perspective. Why it is important from policy perspective? Because with the trajectory of growth, we can decide as to what sort of government intervention is required. For example, because the government felt that the economy was having a V-shaped recovery and the economy was on a rebound, government spending in quarter 1 of 2021-2022 decreased vis-a-vis what was government spending in earlier quarters, because government now thought that private consumption expenditure will take up. However, private consumption expenditure did not take up, and what did it lead to? The economy digressed from its earlier growth trajectory. So which is why it is extremely important to understand as to what sort of growth trajectory the economy is having, and it is over here that the growth curves become recovery curves important. Also, it also helps us to know as to which segments of society will need most of the government support. If you know that there is a K-shaped recovery happening, then naturally there is a segment that needs to be supported. If there is a W-shaped recovery happening, then naturally certain industries are making well, whereas certain industries are going down the hill, and those industries will need certain packages. So this is all with respect to today's lecture. I am also attaching this PPT as a PDF with this. Yesterday's PPT will also be attached to the yesterday's lecture. Should you have any doubts, feel free to comment in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.